I just want you to know that this is the stupidest challenge I've ever taken as far as these things are concerned, and I'm not 100% sure I can make it through this without dying laughing. Now, the work I have chosen here is infamous among a certain fandom of a certain British television show that I have not actually watched. However, it is just bizarre and awful and legendary for being bizarre and awful all on its own. And, well, we're just gonna make this so much worse. If I get through this thing without just dying laughing, I will be amazed. And if I manage to actually hurt my neck from laughing too hard, I blame you. I want you to know that. That said, here we go, and I'm only doing one chapter of this. Chapter 1 of a little fic called Orgy Black. Hail, hail, the gang's all here, Sarah thought bitterly to herself, seeing Rachel power through the doors of the lab, her high heels making her the tallest person in the room, same for Delphine. What a barrel of monkeys. You had Helena, snatching from Cosima's candy dish, set out in a laboratory just for her, really just a petri dish with some Skittles in it. Then there was Allison, seated primly among the Bunsen burners like she was running for Queen of Science. Herself, her leather jacket making her look as out of place there as anywhere else. Delphine and Cosima, the science twins, their lab coats making them into one of those couples that dressed alike. And now Rachel Duncan, hell on heels, her smartly dressed business attire, the final note of conspicuousness to make them all look like they'd drawn jury duty. Maybe next they'd find a clown clone. Say that 5 times fast. Well, what is it? Rachel asked. I take it you're all still refusing to consider the Dyad Institute's generous offer. Can we just table the corporate intrigue for one sec? Sarah asked. If my life has to become a sci-fi movie, I'd rather it not be hard sci-fi. Delphine started to raise her hand in protest, but Cosima quelled her. Rachel crossed her arms, immediately looking like she was tough on crime. That's written with capital letters, by the way. That doesn't leave us much to talk about. We don't exactly have many commonalities. I don't know. Allison has a bit of a stick up her Albicott Ranger also. Allison shot up. I would never put a stick in my albino duck. Cosima interrupted. I think what Sarah's trying to say is that there are more important matters. She glanced to Helena, who was reaching for the candy dish once more. Right, Hel? Yes, Helena said, waving her palm in front of her face to examine how it had been smeared with color by the Skittles. Very important matters for all sisters. Please don't tell me you're going to let her do the explaining, Rachel said. Cosima adjusted her glasses. During my study of her blood samples, I uncovered an anomaly. It took a lot of gene sequencing, but I think that the Leda project accidentally contaminated the cloning process with... We're 1% cat, Sarah interrupted. We'd be an entirely different species if that were true, Cosima said. It's more like 0.000... A lot of zeros, Delphine clarified. 0.1% Cosima included. We're just not dog people. Helena laughed. I don't think this is very funny, Allison sniffed. What does that mean? Rachel insisted. Very little, Cosima replied, but based on preliminary analyses, I believe it may be possible for us to go into heat. Oh, Rachel glanced at Sarah. That's how you're explaining it. Say again, mate? How you're explaining the situation, of course. Sarah's brow furrowed. One of these days, you and your 90s Indies band haircut. Cosima interrupted again. It's not as bad as it sounds. The genome anomaly technically makes us a mutation, and when this mating season begins, we would only be attracted to members of the same subspecies. Sir, what are you saying? Allison asked. That we're all going to be attracted to each other? She looked at Cosima dubiously, but curiously. Yeah, like that'll be something new, Sarah muttered. Seastra will be even more beautiful to me? Helena asked. Why is she here? Rachel asked. Suddenly the executive stopped, shuddering and shivering with clenched fists. Beneath the contours of her jacket, her allier duck were bulging against her blouse. When will this start? Probably not for another, Cosima guessed, gently eyeing Sarah. 2 weeks. Sarah noticed a sudden moisture within her American Pekin duck and tightly grasped the desk she was sitting on. So for the next 2 weeks we should probably all stay away from each other. Yes, Allison agreed, her conservative top now risque by dint of her poking and so we don't all just fuck each other. A collective shudder went through the room at the notion, even Delphine blushing as the thought of an all-clone sex orgy, a clorgy, got to her. Allison crossed her arms over her Appleyard in fierce embarrassment, her face turning bright red. "We certainly wouldn't want that," Rachel said, squeezing her thighs, eyes fixed on Delphine, thinking of what she got up to, her and Cosima, how they worked for her and how she could make them. Helena was sweating. She clutched at the hem of her dress, very strongly aware it was time for the touching of herself, but also knowing that she couldn't, not in front of her sisters. Unless she was wrong about that. Maybe she got things wrong sometimes because she had been raised wrong, because they would like to see her touching. Her body was glowing. She smoothed her dress over her Australian caul, feeling her Australian spotted hardness stir even more. She stared at Cosima in her blouse unbuttoned by one button too many. Every time she moved, Helena could see her Ellesmere duck, rich and brown. Then Cosima looked at her, prompting a blush from even the indomitable Helena. She thought she'd been able to outcome without looking. Cosima said, "If you want to look, it's your body too, after all." "Cosima," Allison shrieked, outraged. "Don't be such a prude," Sarah told her. Cosima shrugged off her lab coat, fully exposing her physique within her skinny jeans and blouse. "I've got nothing to hide." You certainly don't," Rachel blurted. Helena could take no more. She stalked over to Cosima with a hunter's confidence, grabbing her by her dreadlocks and kissing her. "Mon Dieu," Delphine said, though she certainly wasn't complaining. Cosima was responding where everyone else was too stunned to, running her hands through Helena's curly hair until Helena suddenly ducked. That line's a lot funnier right now than it really should be. Leaving Cosima's hands in midair, and bent her head to Cosima's blouse, pulling it open, sucking on her exposed Bakken duck. "Dude!" Cosima gasped. She pulled away from Helena, not adjusting her wardrobe. Her Bali duck, gleaming with saliva, heaved in the open air. Barbary duck erect. "I'm sorry," Helena said miserably. "You so pretty, body looks so nice, wanted to show you how much I like you." Now Cosima moved to button her blouse, but thought better of it on the way there, putting a comforting hand on Helena's arm instead. "I'm sorry I yelled at you. I know you were just trying to make me feel good." Helena nodded. Her legs ached at their tops. The ache was getting bigger all the time. She wanted to go somewhere and rub it all away. Cosima was still talking. "I'm sure you have no idea what to do with these complex, confusing feelings and very positive experiences with human sexuality. Not really mature enough to control yourself like we are. Maybe if I demonstrated for you just a little." Before Helena knew it, Cosima was on her knees, head under Helena's dress, tongue lapping at her back sheer duct. Did I do that one already? At her balcane. Helena gave a moan of pleasure and staggered back onto her desk, lifting her hips and spreading her legs. Cosima's tongue felt good everywhere, but she wanted on that one stingingly hard place that was driving us crazy. "You really don't have to do that in front of us," Allison said. "You really don't have to watch," Sarah said. Neither of them moved. They saw Helena's body shake as Cosima's tongue delicately ran over her bow duck. Oh God, I'm not sure I can do any more of this. No. No, the bow duck killed me. I'm sorry, it's too much.